Chapter 1, Morning in Marley's Flat. I don't remember the first time my father hit me. He was a fan of physical punishment. If I was rude or I didn't eat my dinner or I didn't get out of bed fast enough, whap. I used to squeeze into the space under my bed and cry silently, a pillow stuffed in my mouth so he couldn't hear me, because he couldn't bear weakness. Any hints that I was upset, he would beat it out of me. I didn't tell anyone. Why would I? Back then, parents were in charge. You did what you were told, and if you didn't like it, you shut up about it. Dad used to ride off his Harley, leaving me bruised and battered, and I would open one of his cans of Stella and chuck it down in one go. It dulled the pain. Even now, years later, it still dulls the pain. He's long gone these days, but it took me years to undo his mindset. Years to leave the army where harsh words and physical punishment continued his work. I knew I hurt others too. Kindness doesn't come easy when you haven't been shown any. I wake alone and make coffee, taking milk from the fridge that is always stocked with Stella. I drink it standing at the sink, staring out the window at the slice of sky I can see above the neighboring apartment block. Maybe this evening I'll head down to the arcade. I like the buzz and hum of people. I slam the door behind me, run down the stairs and out the alley, where I put on my helmet, climb on my father's Harley, mine now, and roar off to my tattoo parlor, where I spend the day painting other people's scars into art. When you can't use words, art is always there. I can make the outside beautiful. What's on the inside? Well, that's always harder, isn't it? Chapter 2, Evening at the Arcade. The arcade was an acid trip of sensual insanity, Finn thought. Neon colours in jagged fonts splashed across arcade machines. The whiz and the ping of the pinball machine, the underlying thunk and rumble of the bowling alley, and coating the air, the smell of chicken nuggets, fruit slushies, and grease. I love it, said Quinn, their eyes open wide, with delight as four of them stepped through the doors. Finn beamed down at his adopted child. Good. Happy 15th birthday. Sorry you couldn't spend it with your friends, said John, untangling his long black ponytail from his collar. Didn't have any anyway, Quinn shrugged. I kind of like knowing that everyone who picked on me is 100 miles away. Finn, John, and Jakey shared at a glance. Finn hadn't been sure that uprooting Quinn to move to south of Luton was the right decision. But this neighbourhood seemed to have a vibe that welcomed odd ones. His demon senses tingled. He wasn't the only non-entirely human here. Put those away, John muttered, seeing Finn scratch behind a furry ear with a claw. Sorry, Finn retracted his claws. Can I bowl first? Quinn asked. Jakey draped an arm over their shoulder. Of course you can, and it's a birthday tradition to keep drinking milkshakes till you throw up. That was one time. The four of them bickered cheerfully as Finn checked in and headed over to their lane. Over in the retro corner, between Pac-Man and Space Invaders machines, Julika the dinosaur watched the customers happily. This is my favourite kind of day, she said. Her metal joints creaked as she stretched. The black and purple walkie-talkie hung around her neck, crackled with a throaty chuckle. Every day is your favourite kind of day, it said. I've been practicing gratitude, Julika said. You should try it, Damien. The walkie-talkie coughed. It's hard to be grateful when you're a ghost. Evan, claimed Julika. As a teenage boy wearing ear defenders, a hoodie with a star rounded the corner. What are you grateful for today? Evan stopped and blinked. I dunno. Bees? Bees? Yeah, because without them, the planet would die, right? That boy's a buzzkill, cracked Damien. Julika giggled. What did he say this time? Demanded Evan. Oh, he agrees with you, Julika improvised hastily. Evan was skeptical. He stepped up to the walkie-talkie and said into it, "Look, Damien, you know you can move at any time, right? Just because you died here doesn't mean you have to stick around." Shaking his head, he pushed open the service door and disappeared. There was a moment of silence, and Damien said quietly, "Maybe I like sticking around." "Hey," said Judica softly, "I like you sticking around too. Let's go and play whack-a-mole." The birthday party was in full swing, and Finn was coming out with his favourite German phrases every time one of them got a strike. Now, Joe, I'm going to need your help with these ones. I could try, but yeah. I need your help. I could try, everyone, but it would be embarrassing for all of us. Okay, these ones here. And also, I wanted you to come on stage.
Oh, bless.
There we go. Just down here.
Oh, eindrucksvoll.
Yep.
Verrückt and Scheiße, yeah, which anyone who knows any German will know that's Australian.
Very good, very good. You can see why I didn't want to try. Okay, very good, very good. Language, said John, with Finn sticking out his tongue. Okay. You want to do that one as well? Is that all right? Quinn laughed. "Black Forest Gatto," they told John. Jakey was glancing across the lanes as two young men who had just started bowling. Look at those two young sweethearts. Aren't they cute together? They must be on a date. They were not on a date. At least, that's what Carl kept telling himself. They were work colleagues, out on a work outing. Just two of them. Porphyria was meant to come at 2, but she had cried off with a headache. He was beginning to suspect they'd done it on purpose. Every time he watched Niall's strong hands pick up a bowling ball, it did weird things to his insides. Sometimes he thought he might puke. "You all right?" Niall had noticed, of course. He was sensitive. Damn him. "Yeah, fine." He ducked his gaze, picked up a bowling ball, and swung it straight into the gutter. "Shit!" "Are you okay?" Niall came closer, too close, and put a hand on his shoulder. Carl thought he might faint. "You look kind of anxious or ill. Do you just want to go home?" "No," Carl burst out. Niall jolted backwards, his hand falling for Carl's shoulder. "Put it back," Carl begged silently. "Sorry." He took a deep breath, mustered a smile from somewhere. "I'm fine. I want to say so much. Can we stay here forever, just you and me, or anywhere else, just you and me?" Niall shook his head, amused. "You're mad, you are. I never know what you're going to say or do." He picked up another ball and passed it to Carl. "Go on, take your second shot. I'm sure you can do better." He didn't. The second ball followed the path of the first, straight into the gutter and down into no-point zone. "Like my love life," thought Carl bitterly. There was no point torturing himself. The two of them had worked side by side for months, and he never picked up a hint from Niall that any other man might like him that way. He should just be grateful for this. A whole hour, just the two of them. Why did he always have to mess things up? You couldn't make someone love you. He should try and accept that things were never going to change, that Niall would only ever be a friend. Niall bowled a clean strike and celebrated by high-fiving Carl. Carl vowed never to wash his hand again. Chapter 3, Death Strikes. "It's good to see Quinn happy for once," John murmured to Finn as they both watched Quinn and Jakey mess about at the end of the lane. "It's been a long time," agreed Finn in a low voice. "Poor kid. No one should go through what they did." "You never told me the full story," John said. "I never will. But Quinn was a basket case when I took them in. Mood swings faster than a firing neuron. Concentration span of a goldfish. Could barely read or write and was hell-bent on self-destruction. That's what child abuse does to you." "Their dad?" "Yeah. Some people should never be parents. I think he was in the army, used to come home and take his anger out on Quinn. People hate the authorities, but they did the right thing, taking Quinn away from him. It's been years of therapy, meds, hospital assessments. He smiled as he saw Quinn whoop in delight at knocking down all the pins. And then, those bastard kids at school, God, why are they so cruel? A new start here, said John, reaching out to stroke Finn's arms. A clean slate. Yeah, I think this is a good place, you know. I've got a good feeling about it. Marley was half pissed at the bar already, flirting with the barmaid who had orange and pink hair and a purple lipstick smile. What time are you getting off tonight? He was asking her. She threw a sexy glance over her shoulder. 11, why? I'm sure you'll get home all right, he told her. Who's home? She bantered. She turned to serve another customer, and Marley sipped the rest of his beer and watched her appreciatively. He had 100% hit rate with women. They always said yes. It was hard getting rid when he tried on them, but eventually they would drift away broken-hearted. Then he was free to move on to the next one. It wasn't good to get attached. He'd learned the lesson the hard way. No one would tie him down again. He drained down the rest of the glass and slid off the stool. The trouble with beer was that it went right through you. He threaded his way through the arcade, between the coin slots, the levers, the bright plastic buttons. The kids, the women, the men, he automatically straightened when he passed the men. But he knew he couldn't take any of them in a fight. The route to the toilets took him past the bowling lanes. He slid over the players, lip curling, as he spotted the inevitable gay couple passing over the kids with a huge mop of pink hair and black flared sleeves who stared back at him, eyes wide. What do they think they look like, dressed like that? Parents have no control over kids these days, thought Marley. The country was going to the dogs. Quinn froze in the act of picking up a bowling ball. Him! It couldn't be. And yes, it was. They were sure. 10 years were suddenly wiped away as the memories came crashing back. The crack of the belt, the whistle of the air as though flung against a wall, the impact knocking all of the breath out of him. The smell of the cleaning products under the stairs were there as in they were locked for hours on end. The constant threat of injury, the certainty of knowing at one point there would be death. Quinn's body seemed to lose all its strength. Their blood chilled and their legs gave way, just as the milkshake made its escape, the pink vomit matching the bright mop of hair. Oh, Christ! They heard someone at the next lane say in disgust as they vomited on the shiny wooden floor. Quinn! Finn was at their side instantly. Gentle hands reached for them, but Quinn's body reacted instinctively. Don't touch me! Finn jolted back. A long scratch vivid on his cheek, which almost healed instantly as it appeared. What is it? What happened? Quinn's eyes were searching for him again, to no avail. They staggered to their feet, oblivious to the mess around them. Where is he? Where has he gone? Who? God, Quinn, you look awful. John and Jakey had moved forward to help. Let's get you outside. No, I saw him. There, I saw him looking at me. He went. Quinn's words were a babble. Who? Finn was at his side again. Who's Quinn? Quinn wiped their mouth. Him. My father. What? Now Finn was looking around wildly, though he had no idea what Quinn's father looked like. The adoption company had never shown him a photo. Are you sure? He looked exactly the same, whispered Quinn. Same green camo, like he always used to wear in the army. He hasn't even changed his hair. Finn turned to John. Get Quinn out of here. I can handle all of this. Evan Price was heading towards them, carrying a mop and bucket and looking distinctly queasy at the sight. "Sorry," said Finn to Evan, plucking a 20 from his wallet and holding it out. "Too much milkshake." Evan took out a note and swallowed. "Is he okay?" "That'll be fine. Sorry." Finn left the mess and stalked along the lanes, head turning this way and that. He had never known such anger. It sat in his stomach like a ball of lava, burning all the way through his insides. Demons were very familiar with anger, but this was something new. Cat ears and tail sprouted as he lost control of his corporal form. Marley exited the bathroom in a good mood, thoughts of a barmaid uppermost in his mind. He was brought up short by a figure blocking his way. His eyes blurred as he fought to keep focus. Were those cat ears on a man's head? And why were his nostrils suddenly filled with the smell of burning? You had a kid," said the figure. Though whether these words passed through the air before landing his ears, Marley couldn't be sure. "You had a child." "What is that to you?" Marley wanted to say, but thought his head nodding in agreement. "Years ago." He bit his tongue. 15 years today. Today, is it? He'd forgotten the date. Forgotten the kid most of the time, to be honest. It was 10 years since you'd seen them. "What's that to you?" "Everything," said the figure. "Everything." Marley stared. For a moment, the air darkened around him. Colours drained from the flushing machines. Sounds warped and become waterlogged. The players' movement slowed and became sluggish. Somewhere in the dark, a child screamed, and then it cleared. The figure was gone. Marley shook his head, blinked and shrugged. "You've got all kinds of weird folk in this town these days." He started to make his way back to the bar. Behind him, Finn picked up a bowling ball. Chapter 4, the morning after at the barber shop. His head cracked like an egg, they say. Felix Foxer stared at the reflection of the barbershop mirror. "Wish I'd been there. I could have offered police my help." He glanced up at Porphyria, who looked puzzled. "I used to be a detective." "You did? How many jobs have you had, Felix?" Felix laughed, showing sharp white teeth. "Too many to remember when you're over 100 times a blur." Porphyria said, "Are you and still going strong, right?" He looked at them fondly. "When you have good people around you, it's easier." Porphyria rested a hand on Felix's shoulder and paused for a moment. A steam train rushes into the night. A doctor grins, holding a large syringe. Snap, metal bars of a cage. Someone screams, warmth and kindness, soft fur in the dark. A galaxy of stars set to music. Porphyria sighed and removed their hand, the vision fading. "I'm glad the sadness is past now." Most of it. Today's news doesn't help, though. Poor Marley. I mean, he could be grumpy, but he was a decent sort. I'm certainly going to miss his artistry. Porphyria commented, pulling their long blue hair and admiring the detailed tattoo that snaked its way across their shoulders. "Who's going to ink me now?" "I'm going to get a new tattoo next month," Niall commented as he passed, holding a large bottle of green dye. "You were?" Cole looked up from the customer, whose beard he was trimming. "You never said." "I don't tell you everything." Niall stuck out his tongue and went through to the storeroom. Porphyria raised an eyebrow at Carl. "So?" they said meaningfully. "How'd it go?" Carl looked embarrassed. Carl looked embarrassed. How did what go? The date last night? What's this?" Felix's foxy ears twitched. They looked between Carl and Porphyria, excited. "Nothing happened," said Carl. "You mean I invented a headache for nothing?" as they rolled their eyes. "I knew it," exclaimed Carl. "I knew you were lying." "You two are made for each other," they told him. "Yeah, well, Niall doesn't see it that way. And then the accident happened. So that killed any romance anyway," he shuddered. "I'm never going to get Marley's face out of my mind. It was the weirdest thing. He just, I don't know, stumbled. And then he bent down, like he was doing up his shoelace. And this guy was coming past, carrying a bowling ball. And somehow he tripped over Marley and dropped the ball right on his head. God. Marley didn't stand a chance. He just crumbled on the floor. His head, it just kept bleeding, and people were screaming, and Marley's eyes, you can just tell he was dead. It was horrible." "What happened to the guy who dropped the ball?" "I don't know. No one knows. No one got a good look at him. No one could agree what he looked like. I thought he was tall with black hair, but Niall said he was short with red hair. Everyone had seen something different." The door jangled, and 2 more customers came into the shop, one of them wearing a white cat like a stole around his shoulders. "Welcome. Do you have a booking?" "No," said the one wearing the cat. "We're walk-ins." I finally persuaded John to get his ponytail trimmed. John, handsome, with a black ponytail and beard, grinned. "It got caught in the toaster this morning and short-circuited the house." He held out the end of his offending ponytail, which was looking decently crinkled from the heat. "Well, as luck would have it, we have a space," Porphyria said. "Though I have to say we're all a bit gloomy this morning. We lost a good friend last night." "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that," said Finn, the cat purred. While Niall washed John's hair and exclaimed over the damage from the toaster, Finn wandered the barber shop. He'd never seen one like it. Bare light bulbs hung from the ceiling, mixed with Moroccan lanterns and silver ornaments. Entwining, it was all a mass of dark green ivy, which he assumed was plastic, until he discovered the source of it emerging from the corner shop. "It's real," Carl commented, observing him. "Porphyria likes it that way. We keep telling them it will pull down the building one day, but they won't get rid of it. They say it was here first. They're psychics, see? Get all kinds of readings from places and people and plants. You can't argue with them." "Psychic?" Finn's eyes narrowed. Demons didn't hold with psychics. They thought they knew what was on the other side, but they only ever got part of the picture. He stroked Miley Riley the cat thoughtfully. It might be best if they didn't make this their regular barber shop. It might be a danger. "I've realised. I recognise you," John said to Niall. "From last night at the bowling alley." "Oh, were you there? Wasn't it awful? I still can't believe it." John frowned. "What happened?" "Marley, the guy next door. He lived here for years. Amazing tattoo artist. He died in an accident last night. How did you miss it?" "Someone in my group was sick," said John, feeling a chill sweep over him. "Oh, that was your group?" "Yeah, I saw that. Poor kid. So what happened?" "He must have just gone," said Niall. "A bowling ball. I still feel dizzy thinking about it. It fell right on his head. On this Marley guy. He owned the shop next door. That's why it's closed. Poor man. Such a life. So much violence. I think he had a kid once. Had to be adopted. He turned his life around since. Not an easy person to get to know, but..." John paled as his gaze met Finn's black eyes in the mirror. "What did you do?" he asked silently. "What I had to," came the answer. Porphyria reached out a hand to move Finn slightly to one side, and froze at the contact. Visions flooded them. John saw the eyes widen, their jaw slacken, their cheeks hollow. His stomach dropped to the floor. He had seen this before. They were in trouble. Big, big trouble. Porphyria staggered, reaching out to the wall to steady themselves and break the contact. Somehow they made it back to the room, the back room. So much darkness, so much love, so much guilt. And the biggest flash of black anger, Marley's eyes looking up at him from under a bowling ball. Porphyria was used to human anger, but this was different. This man wasn't entirely human. Hey, it was the ponytail man, towel still draped around his shoulders. You okay? I got you a glass of water. Porphyria reached for the glass. Thanks. They didn't even look at it before drinking it down. Later, after the paramedics had called the time of death and taken away the body, and the police had gone, they put the closed sign at the window. Carl and Niall stood in the empty silence of the empty shop and stared at each other. I don't understand, Carl said, tears streaming down his face. They were upset about Marley, said Niall uncertainly. They didn't do it on purpose, Niall, Carl blazed. They wouldn't. No one would drink hydrogen peroxide on purpose. You saw what it did to them. It can't have been an accident. Unless they just noticed. Maybe they weren't concentrating. Maybe they were ill. They did have a headache last night. That was a total lie, you dimwit. They invented a headache so it would just be you and me. Niall stared at him. What? Why? Because I've been in love with you forever, and you hadn't noticed. And Porphyria was trying to get us together, Carl yelled, his chest heaving. Niall stood as though he turned to stone. You're in love with me? Forget it, Carl said, grabbing his jacket and flinging open the shop door. Forget it, it's pointless. Everything's pointless now. The door slammed and one of the light bulbs fell from the ceiling and smashed on the floor. Chapter 5, Love After Grief. 1 month later. You've got to drag the front foot forward as you lift, Evan said, watching Quinn try the skateboard trick again. Otherwise, the board won't get off the ground. Quinn brushed their pink hair out of their face. It was a hot day in the park. I'm doing that. You're not, though. Let me show you again. No, I got it, Quinn said, irritated. Just wait. Everyone sat back down on the concrete cross-legged. It made him kind of itchy to sit and watch someone else have a go on his skateboard. Quinn didn't know how privileged they were. No one had ever been allowed a go on Evan's board. Evan wasn't even sure why he offered, to be honest. The kid was clearly bored while the 3 adults were sat around and they chatted. Quinn had seemed relieved when Evan had waved them over. You want to go? He asked. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Evan had shown them how to place their feet on the board, how to lean to change direction, and then demonstrated an ollie. I saw you at the arcade, he commented now, watching them try to kick the board into the air. Oh, I didn't see you. I cleaned up your puke, Evan said, instantly regretting it. Well, tell someone something so embarrassing. Quinn's face flushed as they stared down to the ground. Sorry. It's okay, it's my job. But that and other stuff. I thought I saw my dad. Quinn paused for a moment, 1 foot on the board. It was so weird. I haven't seen him for like 10 years. But it can't have been him. I must have imagined it. They shrugged and tried the trick again. Hey, I did it. Hey, Evan's face lit up and his antennae tucked under his hair glowed gold. Nice job. Quinn grinned at him. Told you could do it. Teach me another. Ah, it's lovely being out in the sun, said Julica, stretching up her neck to the sky and closing her eyes. It's been such a gloomy time. I'm tired of hearing about death, crackled Damien through the walkie-talkie. That's all anyone's talked about in this arcade for weeks. First that tattoo man, then the hairdresser. Horrible. It's bad dealing with my own death. I don't want to know about other people's. It's nice to see people happy now, though, mused Julika, watching 3 men stretched out on a park bench. Just ahead of them, a boy wearing a star hoodie was trying to teach a kid with a mop of pink hair how to skateboard. There was a lot of laughter. Stay invisible, Damien reminded her. I know. They were on their way to a concert in town. The summer evening threw long shadows across the path as Julika padded quietly along. Soon, the huge archway of Dallows Stadium loomed into view. Purple Toast Magic plays here tonight was splashed across LED screens in multicolours. Damien scoffed. Band names are getting sillier. They're not, said Julika. I heard the other day of a band called The. You're kidding. Nope. They passed under the archway, but the crowds were increasing. I better wait to one side, said Julika. People keep bumping into me and looking confused. She squirmed into a gap into the archway. Not far away, biting his nails, was Niall. He scanned the exciting punters as they flooded into the grounds. This might not work, he thought. He probably thought about making the biggest fool of himself. But if you wanted something, you had to try, right? Through the crowds, he spotted Carl, and his stomach flipped. His courage nearly failed him, but then he stepped forward, right into Carl's path. Carl saw him and stopped and startled. Niall, hey, look, we haven't seen each other since. Niall had practiced this speech, but now it dried out his tongue. He tried again. You haven't been replying to my messages. No, Carl looked at the ground. I'm sorry, Niall said. I really am. About everything. I didn't know how you felt. I didn't know how I felt. I think what you said, it made me realize. Carl looked up and their eyes met. I wasn't going to come to the concert, he said. We bought tickets a long time ago. You, me, and Porphyria. Niall swallowed. I missed them. Me too. I've missed you, Carl. I haven't stopped thinking about you, the things you said. He reached out for Carl's hand. You know I'm not good at this sort of stuff, but life's too short. And I read this thing that said, through grief you find love, and But he didn't get a chance to finish the sentence because Carl kissed him, stopping the words, stopping the thoughts, starting a fire deep inside him. How he'd been so oblivious to this magical person for so long. Invisible in the shadows, Julika watched. Ah, she said softly, look at that. Through grief, you find love. That's what he said. I like it. You big softy, said Damien. Do you think I'll ever find someone who loves me like that? Wondered Julika wistfully. There was a pause. Then Damien said, what if you already have? Nah, I'd have noticed. Come on, let's go in. The sudden metal clanking from the invisible dinosaur jolted Carl and Niall apart. What the hell was that? Carl looked around and could see nothing out of the ordinary. Don't care, said Niall. You're so beautiful. What? Come here. What about the concert? What concert? Never mind. The end.